Kenyan stocks is expected to be rather subdued this week. Investors will be focusing on Kengen's bond, million bond, and the €2 bond. Take us through how this week's going to pan out in light of Kengen.
Thank you. No doubt, I think the Kengen is going to have a little bit of effect on the retail side. But I think what's going to drive this performance this particular week, three factors. One is this the end of the quarter this particular month. So a lot of repositioning of the equity portfolios among the institutional investors is going to play in the next 2 weeks. Secondly, I think the numbers for inflation has been coming down. So we are expecting that one to have a positive effect in terms of the purchasing power, and people can start probably investing. Then thirdly, as you talked about the Kengen, I think going forward is going to affect mostly on the retail side. I don't see much more sell orders coming through from the institution because of this particular one, because Kengen is being catered for.
Well, equities are not doing so well, hence investors are more interested in bonds at the moment. Take us through how long it will take for equities to do an upturn in the market.
For a local market here, I'm trying to see in the next 4 months to 6 months. So we are looking at the first quarter of next year. Given that the results for this particular half year were not very impressive, and some of the companies that did very well did not even declare dividends. So that does not attract more investors. Secondly, I think to the end of the year, I don't see much changing, particularly in the interest rates regime, stability in those interest rates. And therefore, it's going to maintain some stability between the bond markets and the equity markets. So I think for the next 6 months, 4 months to 6 months, we are going to see the market at least consolidating and trying to take some gains and go up.
Well, Safaricom was the most traded, followed by Co-op Bank. Take us through the outlook for the telecom sector in Kenya at the moment.
Very bright. Obviously, with the arriving of this fiber optic and all these technologies, I think there's been a bit of a push trying to get more people, more companies, cyber cafes, all of these kind of users of internet and the internet superhighway into the system. And I think this is acting very well, particularly for the telecommunication sector, given that these services are being rolled out outside Nairobi, the other towns all across the country. So we're expecting a very busy year towards coming to the end of the year. Probably the income side of most of these mobile telephone companies, like Safaricom, the Zen, is going to be dominated by the data transmission too. And
what are your key stock picks for this week?
No doubt the banks as well as the industrials. There's a bit of some concern on the banks because given that there's been a bit of some of the banks that have started reducing the base lending rates, but you don't expect the other banks to follow suit. In fact, if conditions continue the way they are going, we are going to see more banks maintaining their base lending rates, probably going forward, even forcing the other banks which had reduced their lending rates maybe to come back where it should be. So that's the best bet. And I think on the industrial sector, there's a bit of some growth coming through on the construction sector. So we are looking at Portland, Bamburi, at River Mining. We are looking at Mumias. There's been so much shortage of sugar around here. That does not benefit Mumias, but it talks about the demand that is growing and supply that is constrained. So I think these are some of the stocks to watch going forward.